And we're going to be talking about how to avoid burnout and live a soft life as a business owner, which sounds a little complicated, but that's why we're here. We're here to make things uncomplicated to you by giving you actionable steps so that you can operate as the best version of you in your business. Hey, Megan, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey everybody, Megan Aderele, spiritual business advisor and wealth activator. And what I do is I teach my clients who are primarily service-based entrepreneurs how to truly manifest their visions into reality so that they can get to the next level of peace, purpose, prosperity, and ultimately to see more profits.
Yes. And everyone, this is Attorney Kendra Stephen. I am the brand protection attorney for entrepreneurs, entertainers, and professional athletes. And I help my clients protect their brand so they can increase their profits. Man, this conversation is so needed. I know we're only in January, but I feel like burnout is something that can creep up on you at any time of the year, right? I know a lot of people are like, oh, it's just the beginning of the year. How dare we start thinking that? But the truth is, that's why a lot of people end up making those resolutions of, I'm going to go to the gym 7 times a week. And then by February, nobody's there because they've overdone themselves. So, as we are getting ready to enter a new month, we want to have a conversation with you about avoiding burnout. We want this to be your best year ever, for you to have the most profits in your business as you can have. And in order for that to happen, you got to avoid the burnout. And let's face it, most entrepreneurs deal with burnout at some point or another. Megan, do you remember ever going through a burnout phase in your business?
Who doesn't, right? I think there are various phases, honestly,
Yeah.
that seasons where it almost feels like burnout. And sometimes we don't always identify those things as burned out. Sometimes it can come up and it can feel like we're uninspired or that we're just tired and need some additional rest, right? And
Yeah.
so sometimes I think that we as people, especially those of us who have had, a career in corporate America, sometimes burnout can feel natural, it can feel normal. And
Mm-hmm.
so we don't always necessarily call it burnout when it truly, truly is considered to be burnout.
Yes. And I think it's a common theme around entrepreneurs, business owners, even professionals to get to a point where you are just exhausted. You don't want to do nothing. You don't want to see nada. You just want to literally just lay down, right? There's this video on social media where this person is just like sitting down and the sitting down is tired. I've never seen someone sit down and still look tired while sitting down, but that's the reality of the situation. And when you are burnt out, you're lacking your creativity, your momentum. And what happens is sometimes everything just comes to a complete stop. And then you're faced with another problem. When you do finally recharge, you're now trying to get that momentum back that you have lost. So we want to avoid burnout. Be honest in the chat if you've experienced burnt out, being burnt out, or you feel yourself getting to the point of burnout. You know, be honest, like share, like tell us, we're here, we're friends, we're willing to hear your true stories. Now, one of the first things I consider doing when I was going through burnout, and in order for me to not get to the point where it just stops, right? Megan and I kind of talked about this. It's just always keeping your vision in front of you, right? Megan, can you talk a little bit more about having that clear vision to help you avoid burnout?
Yeah. I think it's important to have that vision, to have that foresight, for you to understand where your passions are, for you to understand what I like to call your soul's purpose, right? It's that inner tugging, that inner knowing, that knowing that you are here. Maybe you're building your legacy business,
Mm-hmm.
maybe you're working in your career, right? Whatever it is, but it's about having that clear vision of knowing exactly, what your own personal mission is. Because I think a lot of times we all have our own business mission and we have
Mm-hmm.
different things, but it's important for us to, connect our own personal vision. And as to for us just really knowing why we started on whatever particular career it was, what was the vision that we had when we decided to start this, and how can we tie our mission to whatever it is that we're doing, to basically generate income and revenue and ultimately profits at this time. And so having that clear vision is very important because it's our vision that helps to keep us grounded. It's our vision that helps to keep us focused. It is our vision that helps us to, just be creative and find creative ways to do those things that we want to do.
Oh, I love that. Remember why you started in the chat. Put down why you started. And I think that's important to always keep that in front of you. Like, have your why be bigger than the amount of money you want to make, right?
Right.
Your why needs to be something that will keep you going, but also to keep you in balance. Because if you're remembering your vision and your why, you're like, hey, I quit this corporate job and I started my business because I wanted time freedom. I wanted my time back. Are you being how do I put that, are you being genuine to that commitment you made to yourself? Are you holding to that commitment, right?
Right.
If your commitment was, I don't want to work 100 hours, but here you are working 200 hours, and I know the story is, it's my business. Totally is your business, but there is a way to work productively in your business without doing that to yourself, right? Because at the end of the day, that's why you left that situation, is because you were being burnt out by the way you were working. So, when we talk about that, one of the things about committing to yourself is self care. Number two, self care, right? To avoid burnout, you have to take care of yourself. That's spiritual, emotional, mental, physical. Are you doing the things to take care of yourself? Because burnout doesn't just happen up here, it happens to the whole body, it happens to the whole human, the whole person, right? So self care is going to be an important part, but consistent self care. What are you going to be doing to consistently take care of yourself so that you do not reach the point of burnt out? Some of you go so far that literally your body has to shut down in order for you to stop. You don't need
Mhm.
your body to shut down to say, we need to take a rest. So, what are some of the things you do for self care, Megan?
I think it's just as a whole, right? So many people, they don't realize that self-care can look so different for so many different people, right? Even some people just making coffee for themselves or tea for themselves in the morning is a form of self-care.
Or
It's how
Starbucks.
you love on yourself. It's how, you get
Some of us
jittery.
don't make it, Megan. Some of us go to Starbucks, and that is self
Well,
care
look,
too.
that's a form of self-care, right? But
Yeah.
I think it's not in essence what you do in a sense, but
Mm-hmm.
how you do it. And it's about the
Mm-hmm.
habits that we begin to build around the
Mm-hmm.
lifestyle that we want, right? And
Got you.
so, self-care looks differently. Sometimes it's treating yourself to, a nice bubble bath, or I like to
Mm-hmm.
treat myself to a nice spa day, right?
Oh, not the spa,
The
Megan.
spa,
I'm putting that
right?
down. Mm-hmm.
Because it's one of those things that it's about not just setting goals for ourselves, right, and
Uh-huh.
self-care goals, but implementing whatever kind of habits that we can within our businesses, within ourself, right? Because it's those habits that really embark and really help you to see that change. And so just think about whatever kind of habits that you can have, right? Like I said, if it's making some tea in the morning
Mm-hmm.
and treating yourself to certain kind of things, or hey, going to
Yeah.
buy it, it's
Not
just
the
looking at the habits that you can
retail
have.
therapy. Did you just say retail therapy for self? Hey, when it comes to self care, can I just say there is no judgment among us. We are not going to judge you for what you need to do for you. This is you. That's why it's called self care. And the fact that I want you to understand, when you're doing self care, we want you to do it in such a way that you become self full. It is really hard to pour from an empty vessel. So self care is important because when you are operating at your best, you are self full. Okay. You are fulfilling your calling. You are doing the things and you're operating in that zone that Megan mentioned. And in order for you to do that, self care got to be taken care of.
Yeah.
Right. And she's given some examples, and you in the chat, you can put examples of how you do your self care. I would love to know. A lot of times it'll involve physical fitness. So people might have the gym, or they might just do yoga, or whatever version of get moving. Movement is so important for your mind. It helps with your creativity, it helps with your problem solving. You have to find some way to move every day. And I know it sounds like, oh, yeah, that sounds easy. No, it's not. I get it. It's not easy. Your schedule is full. You've got so much things going on. We're going to talk about that. But you have to find a way to move that body because that's going to help you to be more productive. Dance classes, whatever you want to do. Chase your kid around the
Even
backyard.
being still.
Hmm.
I said, even being still, I think that some people, they don't even realize that being still and doing things such as prayer and meditation is still a form of self-care, right? Because it's you recognizing and honing into, maybe even you feeling like, you know what, I don't feel like pushing myself so hard today. But sometimes you're so in your head that you don't even have that moment to be still to understand the level of self-care that you truly,
Hmm.
truly need. And so it's important to not even just move, but to be able to relax and to get still in the moments to actually listen to yourself and to listen to your body and to listen to your spirit for those things that's calling
Hmm.
you.
So that's definitely on our self care for mental, right? Our mental ability to be still, to meditate, to journal. Those things are important in addition to our physical. I agree. And then obviously tap into yourself. Like what is it that you are needing in that moment? What is it that your soul is longing for in that moment? How can again self full, we are self full. How can we recharge ourselves? What are we needing in that moment, right? So it and relaxation. Maybe it's a vacation, a staycation, whatever it is. Maybe it's a good steak. Okay. Whatever it is, you need to tap into yourself and take care of that. Vitamins, water, all that good stuff, because that all plays a part in how you show up, right? All right, number three. This one might get a lot of people um, feathers ruffled, but in order for you to avoid burnout and live that soft life in your business, you're gonna need to set some boundaries. Okay, boundaries are gonna be important. No one's gonna respect your time more than you're gonna respect your time. Megan, what are some of your tips on boundaries?
I think one of the biggest things is me learning is that no is a complete sentence, right?
Woo. Yes.
Is, and it's okay to say no, because a lot of times, we want to overachieve and we want to do this and we want to do that and be all things for everyone. But I think it's important that we also understand that it's okay to say no.
Ooh.
That was one of the biggest things that I think I had to learn on my journey, and just also saying if things aren't in a line, it's okay to say no, to say not right now, not at this time, that everything does not always have to be a yes.
I remember early on in my career, I didn't really much have a lot of boundaries. So I worked Monday through Sunday, got calls, phone calls, text messages, emails. I was on it. And what that led to wasn't just like a burnout, but like for me at the time, like it led to me being in situations I didn't even need to be in because I didn't say no. I was like, sure, I can handle this and I can handle that. And it led to legitimately me ending up with high blood pressure and me having my son super early because I didn't have boundaries. I was just like, I'll do it all. And so for me, boundaries are important, not just because of me wanting to be productive and successful in business, but also for me for like that mental health, right? Boundaries are so important. And the boundaries I set sometimes aren't even conversations with people. I don't even like, oh no, this is the boundary for you. It's just the way I operate can be in boundaries, right?
Habit.
So
Yep. You
the
create
habit of
habits.
setting, I think once you set expectations in relationships, people can respect your boundaries a lot better. So even if it's like, hey, I don't work on Sundays, but I will definitely respond back to your email when I'm in the office on Monday. That is setting a boundary, not in a rude way, right? But letting that person know expectation is if I write her on a Sunday, she's not getting back to me on a Monday. And that's absolutely fine. I think a lot of times you run into issues with your boundaries because you're not making it clear. and you're not communicating it to the other party in a way that they understand, and it doesn't come off and it doesn't put people off, but more so I think if you replace boundaries with expectations, people are more accepting of it from you.
Yeah. And I think another tip that I think I wanted to share was, you know, just thinking about how in business you're not supposed to commingle funds, right? You're supposed
Mhm.
to separate your business and your personal. And so I think it's also important that when you look at communication patterns, if you don't have a separate business line and separate business communication to also kind of draw that line,
Yeah.
just so that you can have your business life and have your personal life. And, you know, also setting those boundaries within your apps and or your emails so that, you know, you don't get disturbed if you do get an email in the middle of the night or on the
Mhm.
weekend, that you have those alerts, you know what I mean, like muted, and that you set whatever kind of boundaries that you need to, so
Yeah.
that you can get your full sleep and have your full rest and you're not tempted, even if that means, you know, keeping your work phone downstairs or in the car or wherever
Mhm.
you have to, so that it can force you into certain habits as you're learning to instill these boundaries that you have.
Ooh, I'm the queen of DND on my phone. Do not disturb. My phone literally lived on it for so long, it didn't even know how to ring. Like when I took it off, it still didn't want to ring. It was like, what we doing? We're always on DND, ma'am. And I think just putting that in place allowed me to filter out a lot of the noise that I was getting throughout the day. And so, like you said, like use technology to your advantage, use those things to help filter out and set the boundaries for yourself. No one knows, and well, they will when they call and it goes to voicemail, but like they won't think nothing of it other than her phone went to voicemail. So don't feel like you are stepping on anyone's toes sometimes to set those boundaries for yourself, and like Megan said, utilizing those tools to your benefit, because at the end of the day, this is your production, right? It's your productivity, it's your burnout that's going to happen. These are all things that you're going to need to do for you. And when you set them in place now, the goal is that, hey, you're using these things without having to think about it. Remember, habits. I think one of the books I would recommend at this point in time would be Atomic Habits, right? That would be a really great book for you if you're like new on boundaries, new on certain things. Check that book out, right? Because it may help you place your boundaries in such a way that it becomes a habit and not something that you feel is forceful, right? Because you don't want it to feel forceful, but you do need to do it. You do need to do it. Next, I think one of the things that we're going to get into, boundaries is one of those things that leads you directly into time management. Okay. You cannot avoid burnout and live a soft life without time management. Time management is so important, but I think a lot of people think the goal is to manage your time. And to me, that's not what it is. The goal is to increase your productivity, right? So, time management isn't the goal. Time management is the tool that we use to increase our productivity and help us avoid burnout. Okay. The goal isn't, oh, how good can I manage my time? No, the goal is to increase productivity without burning yourself out. Megan, what are some of your tips on time management?
I think it's important to like chunk out the time and to actually do some type of time study initially to kind of figure
Mhm.
out what are you actually doing with your time,
Yes.
because a lot of people, they think that they don't have time to do this, they don't have time to do that. But when you look at some of the wasted time or time that you're spending just
Yeah.
scrolling on social media or just
Woo.
doing things that aren't being productive, right, that aren't necessarily income producing activities for you,
Uh-huh.
and once you become focused and you realize where your time is going, you can really begin to start noticing and identifying. I was gonna say like notifying, right? Just a whole new word.
Your phone will notify, but you know what? Your phone does have notifications. You can have it set up and it can send you a report. Like, I know there's something in the apps that'll tell you where you spent your time on your phone.
Yes.
They'll literally say you spent this many hours on Instagram, you
Yeah.
spent this many hours here. So it will legitimately tell you how much time you're spending on your phone, on where you're spending your time as well. So
Yeah.
I agree. You do need to take the time to look at how you're spending your time. Everything is not a priority, right? And so going back to another book that I just thought of that might also help you is the 12-week year,
12-week
right?
year.
And that if you're reading that book, you like part of the system is with you having that schedule, that goal, and that for that 12 week, your day is already planned out. So you're not starting the day trying to figure out what I need to do today.
Mm-hmm.
You already did that. Your day is already planned. So if it's not within that window, it's not
Right.
within that space, hey, you are putting yourself off of your goals. So I think that's a good book to add to your list, the 12-week year. We're still early in the year that you can get that book going and implement it. But I think that's a good book that we can talk about, and the importance of planning your day, right? Planning your day, not on the day, but prior to that day. If you you pick one day out of the week and you plan your week, right? You plan what's going to happen that week. And then each day you have what needs to get done that day. You're less likely to put something ahead of that wasn't a part of the plan, because that thing that you might have put ahead of it is going to throw you completely off your goal, or it's going to distract you in some way, and you're not going to meet that goal that you have for yourself. So
Mm-hmm.
planning your day is important to avoid distractions and having things pop up that you feel are priorities but really aren't, right? They aren't because they were not a part of the plan that you have for the day. Obviously, we're not talking about emergencies and personal matters. We're talking about business stuff. We know you should have flexibility and things for that. But as far as work related, business related, things that you're doing in the operations of your business, that should be pre-planned. What are some of the tools you like to use for planning, Megan?
When it comes down to planning, I am a calendar girl, right? I
Really?
have everything on my calendar. Like if it's not on my calendar, it just does not exist, right? And I think it's important that you have a calendar, and especially one that you can actually see your personal life as
Mm-hmm.
well as your business life, right? So that you can incorporate the lifestyle that it is that you want to live, and even put little minute things within there.
Yeah.
So typically I don't like to take calls first thing in the morning, so
Uh-huh.
I have my calendar blocked out, at the start of the day and at the end of the day. And what do I do, at the start of the day? I have it blocked out for just in case I maybe want to wake up a little bit later. I utilize that time to check emails, to actually
Mm-hmm.
look to see what I have to do for that day, right? And so I have that time blocked off, because who wants to go in, start their day, and have to get rushed into a meeting, right? So
Yeah.
that allows me to kind of ease into my day, just know that, hey, that I don't have, and nobody's expecting me to be any particular place. And so
Mm-hmm.
utilize, whatever type of calendar tool that you have. You can
Mm-hmm.
utilize your Google Calendar, you can utilize Outlook, and then utilize it and do different things such as like color coding,
Yeah.
right? If it's certain times for you to check your emails, if it's certain times that you need to do prospecting, if it's client calls, if it's following up
Mm-hmm.
with different things, and implement some type of color coding system. But also
Mm-hmm.
don't forget to block off the time that you need to for whatever personal things that you have going on, so that you can just really get a good glimpse of how it is that you are spending your time. But that's one of the biggest tools that I like is, just a nice standard generic, calendar system.
I was gonna add to that, like Megan mentioned, blocking off time, like blocking off time to get things done in the day. I was actually gonna add to that in like having themes for the day. Like, okay, Thursday, Monday, Wednesday, this is my marketing day, right? And Tuesday, Thursday are my days on calls with clients. And Fridays, whenever I'm gonna do anything with my children or book their appointments or whatever, like know that in advance. So it's not, oh my God, this thing popped up. It wouldn't make sense for it to just pop up. It's a part of the day. And so you should have your days like, I know for me, like Friday would be the day I try to avoid having client calls unless it's a specific project we're working on. Monday is a day that I'm like, okay, it's more management. We're taking the time to deal with mindset and management and get things in order. Wednesday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, okay, we know we have calls at this certain time. This is the blocked off time. I already have my calendar kind of structured like that. And I'm going to be honest, you're like, wow, that's pretty good. It took a while to get there. Okay. Originally, at one point, I'm sad to admit this, but at one point, like I had so many calls scheduled that I didn't even have time to eat lunch. Okay. Like they had to put lunch in my calendar
Yep.
because it was so
Gotta block it
booked.
out.
It was booked Monday through Friday,
Yep.
call after call, back to back to back to back to back. Right. And what that did was that burnt exhausted. Okay. Because all of that talking, like it was exhausting for me. And by the time I was done, I was done. Okay. And
Mhm.
that was from the first call started at 10 a.m. The last call was at 6 p.m.
Mhm.
Now, no, we don't do that. The other thing that I was going to add is with the calendar, like Megan mentioned, blocking off that time. But my kids have activities. We have, so making sure their activities are there. I also have their school calendar in there. So my team knows, okay, Kendra's kids are off at this time. Kendra's not going to be in the office at this time. This is a holiday. Like all those things are a part of it because I believe in work harmony, work life harmony, right? Like they blend together and they live harmoniously. And in order for them to blend and live harmoniously, they got to communicate.
Yep.
They
Agreed.
got to communicate with each other. So my work schedule, my children's schedule, their school schedule, like they all got to blend. And don't forget, you got to put in time in there for your spouse. So your spouse got to be on there as well.
Mhm.
Like all of these people, responsibilities and commitments, they are living harmoniously on your calendar,
Yep.
right? And you need to have them communicate. So that is key. All
Yes.
right.
And I
Now,
think that's important too as it comes to boundaries, right? And just really having that crystal clear within, that calendar, within your scheduling system, so that it helps you to also create those boundaries. But what I want us to also think about is that we have to be realistic, right? Because a lot of times people put so many unrealistic expectations when it comes down to schedule and all these other kind of things.
mhm,
Sometimes it's about, implementing things within our calendars where it's catch up time,
mhm,
project recap, review, put in those type of things and actually scheduling those things out on your calendar, right? If
mhm,
it's following up and doing those type of things. And, especially with us as females, and if you're still within childbearing years, right? And even if you're not in childbearing years, a
mhm,
lot of times you have to also look at your feminine cycles, because we all have them. And so, also, a lot of times, most people or some people are regular. And so, you kind of know that time frame, and there's
mhm,
certain times and days. And so, actually employing within your calendar, just noticing,
mhm,
what your natural cycle and what your natural flow is when it comes down to certain times of the month. And if you realize that, hey, this is when I tend to, slack off or not have as much energy, or I need more rest, or maybe this is the time that you need to actually put in more self-care during that
mhm.
time frame. But it's about setting these realistic goals and expectations so that you can actually be fulfilled, right? And have that full life. And so that you can actually, pour from your overflow and not getting sucked dry.
Ooh, okay. That's the word on the spiritual end, my love. Now, my other thing would be to help avoid burnout and live a soft life is you need a team. You need somebody on your team. And I'm saying team because I'm speaking it into existence for you. If you're solo, at least start with one person, right? You need one person. I was listening to a podcast and actually I know most of the time, most people say, hey, get a VA, right? Which is great. Of course, get a VA. But I think one of the sources of frustration for a business owner that causes burnout is obviously trying to wear multiple hats at the same time. And one of those hats is dealing with your finances. And I heard the recommendation of getting a bookkeeper, and I was like, "Ooh, that is actually a really good recommendation of getting a bookkeeper first." Yes, a VA is great, but I think if you can hand over dealing with your business books, because a lot of people try to do it on their own right away, hiring a bookkeeper will actually relieve some of the stress because financial stress is a big one. Okay, it's a big one. And so having someone that's already keeping up the books and keeping things in order takes that off of your plate. The goal is to take things off of your plate, right? So if you're like, Kendra, I don't have a team, at least get yourself a bookkeeper, minimum, because you don't want to deal with your finances. Those that could take hours and days for you to have it together. Megan, what are your thoughts on like having your team, working with a team to help you with burnout?
Yeah, and it's great, but again, I think it comes down to the realistic expectations. And, my background really is in systems and operations and having clear and defined goals and vision. And so,
Mhm.
whoever it is that you want to hire, if you feel that your first hire should be a virtual assistant, if you feel that your first hire should be a bookkeeper, is really about what are the tasks, right? What are the actions
Mhm.
that you want them to be able to complete? Because a lot of times, so many people, and this is a whole conversation that I'm sure that we'll have when it comes down to hiring very soon. But so many people, they hire too soon because they have unrealistic expectations of
Mhm.
what they want certain roles to be. And so, what I would tell you right now, if you're looking to begin to hire, is to begin to document all of those things that you're doing today that
Mhm.
you want to pass on tomorrow. And so when you look at those lists of things that you're doing today that you would say, hey, I want to pass this on to someone else, see if you can categorize those things. And that will be the first person that I would say that you would need to hire in your business.
I love it. Build a team to help you avoid burnout. Okay. Build a team. There's only so many hats you can wear. And at the end of the day, the more hats you wear, the more likely you are going to end up burning out. So you want to avoid wearing too many hats in your business. Get someone in your business to help you, whether it's a VA, a bookkeeper, like documenting, getting to that point, because hiring someone and bringing someone on can actually make the difference between a profitable business and one that's just trying to keep itself afloat. Right? When you're trying to do it all by yourself, sometimes it is not going to work out. So find someone. It doesn't have to be a full-time someone, but someone that could come in and help you in the business in some way or another to give you back your time. Because the more time you can have, the more productive you can become, and the more you can really focus on the things that are going to generate more money for the business. All right, our last tip that we have for you, which is definitely, I think, going to help with avoiding burnout, is automatic. Okay, wasn't my best impression of it, but you get the point. Using automation in your business can help you avoid burnout and help you live the soft life. Megan, you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. I think that a lot of times people do so many repetitive tasks and they don't realize that it's certain things that they can automate. And there's certain systems and tools out there that once you're able to connect these things, you might not really need the type of VA that you think that you need because you have these systems and automated. So
Yeah.
again, look at a lot of these repetitive tasks that you keep on doing and just research out there to see if there's a system, a tool,
Mhm.
a software. Why do I keep wanting to like merge my words together?
Yeah, Megan, it's that coffee you had today. But yes, I get what you're saying. Is that sometimes if you look at it, you can find a tool that might actually help you in a way that a VA may not be necessary. So some of the things you're doing in your business can be automated, right? Some of the things, such as maybe setting up your customers on reoccurring payments. That's something that I talk about. Subscriptions, right? Having that subscription in place so you don't have to call them up every time. My kids go to taekwondo, and their taekwondo teacher used to collect payments every month. Like he used to be like, "Hey, you ready to make your payment?" And you go into the office and you make your payment. I don't know who got into him, but they did him right because he came out one day. He's like, "Hey guys, we're moving to automated payments." That man looks so happy. Okay. He's like automated. He doesn't need to think about it. On the 15th of the month, it comes out of your bank account or your checking, whatever, your credit card, whatever it is you have. Put the card on file. Here's the other thing. He outsourced it to someone else. He's not even internally doing it. He outsourced it and has a company that does it. And he's like, listen, and if he goes, oh, and by the way, if you miss a payment, they'll reach out to you. He's not even reaching out. He ain't even dealing with the failed payment.
Mhm.
Okay. He is fully sent it out the door. And I think that makes sense. So if you're in a position where your business has customers that are paying you monthly, find some way to automate that payment so that you aren't reaching out to them every month and being, hey, can you please pay me? Like it's going on midnight, boom, his payment is coming out. So I think that's a great example of using automation, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Another one that I like that I don't think a lot of people really think about is, you know what the dentist does? Once you book the appointment, they are texting you, calling you, the
Oh
reminders
yeah.
are going out. They're not sitting around doing that. That's already set up in their system. Once you book that appointment, it's already happening. I know on our end, we do something like that too. Like if you book a consultation, our system is set up where it'll send an email, it'll send a text, it'll ask them to confirm.
And send the reminders, okay?
Sends reminders. Yes, it does. Multiple reminders. It also does it on the day of. It asks you to reconfirm again. And so those things are
Following
automated.
up, thank you for our call, you know?
After the call, it has a follow-up sequence. So you need to tap more into the tools that you have for automation in your business because you're missing out on opportunities to regain more time. If someone missed a consultation, it sends out a different message and asks them to rebook. I mean, there's so many different ways that you can integrate it. We're not saying your whole business needs to be automated, but find one thing. We're going into
Hey,
a new month.
so what I heard you say is that someone needs to block off time in their calendar to review the tools and software
Yeah,
that they currently have so that they can find ways to automate their business to
one thing.
avoid burnout, being
I don't
burned
even
out.
need you to spend a whole day about it. Just find one thing in the business that you want to automate. Just one thing. In the chat, tell me one thing in your business that you would want to automate today. Like one thing. What comes to mind that you think you would want to automate? Put it in the chat. I would love to see that. Megan, what's one thing that you did automate in your business that gave you more time back?
One thing that we automated in our business was that once people enrolled and filled out the enrollment applications,
Mm-hmm.
we set up in our system where if we went in and accepted their application, they will either get an automated accepted or application denied. And
Oh,
so it was simple tasks that
not the deny automated.
listen, because if and it gave recommendations. So for
Uh-huh.
instance, if you would apply for one of my academy program, right? Once we review that application and if we feel like you're not a good fit, then we would offer a free challenge or something else that we have that's a part of the automated process to get you to wherever it is in your business. And so typically that will be a task of, someone reviewing the application, going into a system, copying the email, maybe even copying and pasting that. But when you
Mm-hmm.
have systems and tools that are working together and you can simply press a button in one system, it goes and talks to another system, right? And it sends out that automatic email. That's less pressure. And then you have a way of, okay, it's been so many amount of time since that person's application did whatever, then it still has a sequence in there where it follows up with the person and still puts them on some other type of list. And so you have to think about what are those systems and tasks that people are doing that are
Mm-hmm.
repetitive within our business, within our operations, and how can we figure out ways to not necessarily eliminate someone's job because they're still looking and doing that type of thing, but
Mm-hmm.
how can we make people more efficient? Because when you feel more efficient and you feel more secure and more confident, that can help you to lead to not feeling so burnt out.
Oh, there you have it. The goal is for you not to be burnt out and to live your version of a soft life. My version of a soft life is a full life, an impactful life. I still work, but I work in a way that is in tune with me to allow me to be self full and not burnt out. Right. And I hope you guys enjoyed this live. I mean, we've given you so much information, so many tips. I just want to know in the chat what's one thing from this live that you plan to implement today? Like one thing. We've given you several options, but give me one thing that you plan to implement today. Megan, how can they find you on social media?
Yeah, you can find me on at Megan Aderele on all things social media, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, IG, all the places. Just search my name.
Places, all the places. All right, make sure you guys tune in for the next live where we are going to be diving more into the things that are holding you back in business and helping you make it uncomplicated. Megan, thank you so much for being my guest tonight. I can't wait to have you back again. And guys, don't forget to follow Megan. And if you are interested in any of her coaching products or services, reach out to her. She's available. All right.
We ready?
Apparently, to automate a denial. That's a new one, Megan. All right. You guys have a good one. Thanks for tuning in. Bye bye.